Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
I promise you, this is not a political podcast.
Jump from the deep end of the pool, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. 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 Set up the mood.
So then we lock and load. Testicles 1, 2. Testicles. Welcome back to Paranoid Radio Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I am Trebles Garcia, the humble host of this amazing adventure. I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. Ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing that you could do for us today is word of mouth. Do not forget to spread the word about the show. Check us out at paranoidradio.com, paranoidradio.com. Cop up some of the t-shirts. But again, if you drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, that will allow other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Now, please allow me to jump in from the deep end of the pool and set the fucking mood. I have an amazing episode lined up for all of you guys with a couple of dudes from Ohio that have their own podcast. They're the hosts, they're truckers, and they're all they can be. They're living their best fucking life. Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Operation Red Pill, Christopher and Jason. What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. You guys look great behind the camera. What's up, guys? Where do you guys hail from?
Columbus, Ohio.
Woo.
You know, you said it, Christopher, like it was just so lame. We're saying Columbus,
there we
Ohio.
go.
You got to hit it with like an OH, right? You know how we do around the state. Everybody knows we're from the OHIO.
That's
Representing.
right. You got to work hard at that representation, bro.
Right?
My bad.
It's funny. Anytime people hear you from Ohio, they're like, Ohio. It like carries a knee-jerk reaction. You're like, man, it can't be that bad. Like, what do you got cornfields out there? I'm like, yeah, we got 3 cities in the middle of cornfields. It's pretty much Ohio.
Yo, you guys are this is honorable for me because you guys are the first special guest from Ohio that I've ever had on the show. So congratulations, kudos to that. Popping the cherry of Ohio guests.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Hopefully
man.
we represent the OH right.
Right,
You're
we'll
gonna
try.
do an amazing job. I have a very strong feeling. You guys have great work, and you guys are active, dropping episodes every week. Now, please let them know where they can find you guys.
Yeah, so we are Jason and Christopher. I'm Christopher. He's Jason. Operation Red Pill. You can find us at orppodcast.com. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, any place you can find a podcast, ORP Podcast. Instagram, Facebook, Instagram at ORP Podcast. And we have a merch store, which would be orppodcast.shop. So all pretty simple, pretty easy to find. And yeah, look for us. But we've been friends and we've been studying this material for just about over a decade. And we've only been running the podcast for about 2 years. So it's a relatively new development from our friendship. And we met actually met in a warehouse, Victoria's Secret warehouse. And we were just throwing bras and tossing panties and
Wow, look at that. It sounds familiar. I used to work selling panties and bras. Look at that shit, huh? Small
You know what I mean?
right, that's wild.
You know, it's amazing how bras and panties can bring 2 strange men together. What do you do with it?
Not two
Right.
strange men. Strange.
Well, you know what? Touche. I do appreciate the clarification. Oh, that's funny.
You guys are wild, man. You guys are good energy. I love that stuff. I'm glad. I'm happy we did this, man. All right, guys.
Yeah,
So
yeah, throwing bras and panties, it's just a mindless job, right? So we're working side by side and we start having all these conversations. And one day we're having a conversation about the flood in the Bible. And, we're just kind of looking at all of the things, measuring, whether or not we can put faith in it and all that. And then we get another employee comes over and he's like, you guys think that's real? And Jason's like, well, of course we do. He's like, well, what makes you think that? And Jason's like, well, how do you want it? I can explain it to you scientifically, historically, or biblically. What do you want? And the guy kind of took a step back and guy said,
My dude was like, he was ear hustling. Like the conversation I have nothing to do with him. And he jumped in like, hey, y'all believe that? I'm like, dude, if I could uppercut you and represent Jesus at the same time, I'd find a way. Stay in your lane.
What?
This ain't got nothing to do with you. Right?
God damn.
Dude, yeah, it made me mad.
That is a wild story.
Right. So the guy says, he asked for the scientific answer. So Jason rattles off, geologic column issues, salinity of the ocean, things like that. And the guy kind of walks off, and Jason turns around, and here's this new friendship. And I'm like, can you do that? Is there scientific, historical, and biblical answers for the flood? And he's like, I mean, there are, but I only had the answer for the scientific ones. So I was like, no. I said, if there's really these answers out there, then we need to find them. And that has just kicked off an intense research and friendship since then, trying to connect all this and uncover truth. It's been pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And, for anybody who's listened to our show or is familiar with our content, one of the main things that we cover is this idea of satanic control matrix.
That's exactly what I was going to hit through, man. You guys are already taking off, man. I don't even have to host this show. Go ahead, take it over, man.
Hey, man, cool. Hey, buckle up. If that's what you want. You're about to get the full experience.
Woo!
But for people who may not be super familiar with that, we'll try to explain that here in a minute. But what we want people to understand is that we aren't necessarily trying to convince anyone that we've discovered, like this new thing that nobody's heard of. But more than that, we're really trying to help bring a measure of clarity and to show the connection between the things that people already know and maybe a couple things that they don't. And as we actually begin to do that research that Christopher was talking about, we started collecting various data points. We started mapping out our findings. Something really crazy began to happen. We started noticing that the various political agendas, the social engineering protocols, the rising paganism and fascination with the occult, the increased instances of satanic ritual abuse, and the proliferation of child sex trafficking, as well as a myriad of other problems, they weren't just a random set of data points, which really freaked us out. In fact, as we took a step back, we began to notice that what we're seeing was actually an integrated network of issues. And those were issues that seem to be designed to not only destabilize society as a whole, but bring down the entire created order.
Right. Because, see, in the pre-Christian world, kingdoms and nations sought to exact dominance and expand their territorial reign in large, sweeping acts of force. We see the descendants of the fallen angels, the bloodline families, and the dynasties all fighting for ever-increasing sectors of geographic domain. So the trade, the politics, the philosophy, the religion, and the finance all tended to reside behind national borders drawn out by blood and war. But a problem arose for the confederated forces of darkness, and that was the institution of Christ's church, which collectively is a subculture of multinational, multicultural, and multilingual persons equipped to permeate the boundaries set by the forces of darkness and dynastic reign of hybrids, all with a unified purpose to meet the needs, to educate the minds, and to orient the hearts of men towards the one true God. Moreover, the church is a sociological system of education, finance, and order, given authority by the Creator himself, completely immune to the geopolitical and religious boundaries of the fallen world, and thus is capable of undermining the entire plot of the forces of darkness. So, in response to this imminent defeat, the confederated forces of darkness, along with their human counterparts, had to change tactics by undertaking what's known as a tactical retrograde, which is where you attempt to improve your tactical situation by drawing your enemy into an unfavorable position in order to regain the initiative. So instead of all-out war with one another, they had to make kind of a treaty of sorts, divvying up sectors of control and secret societies under bloodline families, all designed to function under the radar of the ecclesia, which is the church.
Damn.
And see, all of that was necessary because the forces of wickedness were, and they still are, unable to overcome the gifted teachings of God incarnate, as well as the true eyewitness account of his coming, which is fortified by the Old Testament prophetic anticipation of the king to come. So Satan's only hope really of getting to heaven and raising his throne to the height of this king is by way of man, by invading the human bloodline. And this is like the problem we find today. Satan can become linked to the destiny of the earth, and by way of the earth, he gains access to heaven. And this is why in scripture, we have the seed warfare proclamation and what's called the proto-evangelium, the very first mention of a gospel, which shows up at the end of Genesis 3. It's why they're so important, because this is precisely why the Antichrist protocol and the satanic control matrix were put in place.
Right.
Yo, I have to amplify what you just said. That is okay. So fuck, there's a lot of shit to fucking consume here, guys. That was fluffed up. But I was doing an episode with K4V3 podcast, Joe Reezy, shout outs to them. And they mentioned how in 1997, while Clonade pushed out the first clone animal, it was the first lamb, right? Again, again, they're trying to invert everything that God put on earth, right? There's nothing new under the sun. So the first cloned animal what happened to be a sheep, a lamb, and then that's when federal funding stopped giving out to Clonade. But still, every single thing that they did after 1997 was mocking Jesus. This is why a lot of the Satan worshipers or people from the Church of Satan, they go to Catholic Church to get closer to God and gain more powers. It's something about them. They already know they lost, but they have to continue mocking Jesus and mocking his teachings and everything they do. And by controlling, by confusing us. Sorry for that, guys.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think it's so much bigger though than just a particular aspect. Some of us run into these different, what we would call agendas or aspects of the satanic control matrix, but it's so much bigger and broader. And it's really hard to kind of get a grasp for people to step back. Like one of the things we like to do and talk about is situational awareness. And if you come onto a scene, you don't know what's happening, it's very difficult to make an assessment of what's happening and be accurate. And humanity finds itself situated in an ongoing war that was going on prior to us getting on the scene. And many of us see the fallout of that war in the day-to-day agendas or day-to-day activities that are happening, but we don't really have the backdrop to get good situational awareness for us to make informed decisions on how to move forward. Right. And that's a tactical disadvantage. They don't.
Some people,
they not only do they not care, they're apathetic. Right. They don't care. They don't want to know. They're uneducated and they're happy with it. Yeah. And that's part of the problem. Right. But it's all being managed to a much larger scale to achieve a much larger goal. And part of that goal is to reposition humanity at a very specific place on the cosmic chessboard. It's really what Elliot Marzulli calls a cosmic chess match, a back and forth between the forces of darkness. But it's not just about this back and forth. It's also about achieving a much larger goal. It's like it's really this way. You have humanity, and humanity is both the prize and the pawn in this war. Right. So we have people that are in league with the forces of darkness and are trying to manipulate outcomes, but they are also manipulating humanity at the same time. Humanity is not just about getting manipulated. There's something that the forces of darkness get when they manipulate us. One is they get energy from us. They're able to actually sustain themselves because our choices carry a not just consequence for our lives, but they also carry an energy force, and they're able to feed off of it. And people might hear this and be like, okay, what are you talking about? For those who may not be familiar with this concept, we know that humanity is what you would consider to be like a step-up Tesla coil. We're an antenna. We can both transmit and receive energy, if you will. DARPA knows this, which is Defense Advanced Research Projects Administration, something like that. They've been studying how to manipulate people by frequency modulation and in frequency manipulation. So you could take
that's patent technology. That's patent technology. Yeah.
Right.
Through the freaking TVs and microwaves and shit. Yep.
Exactly. And they can do it for crowd control. They can do it on a massive level where it's scaled up, and you can have whole regions that are affected by this weaponry that actually changes the way you feel. It can influence the way you think, all of that. Well, why? Because we can receive energy, but we can also give off energy. There are spiritual forces that actually feed off of the energy that we give off, and they're able to use that energy to build out other parts of their control matrix. So we have both a place in this battle where we're being affected, but we also affect what's happening. And it's a really crazy position to be in, because more than just affecting us, what these forces want is to actually gain access back to heaven, to actually challenge God. One, to affect his heart.
Yeah.
Right. They want to affect his heart and get back at him by destroying us, but they also want to take over heaven. And so it's crazy to see where we're at.
You know, I always mentioned I was talking to my fourth leg. I call him my fourth leg. Shout outs to Juan. We have mass. Whenever there's one or two people mentioning his name, that's mass. That's church right there. So every morning we're talking, Bible verses and stuff. And he mentioned to me that they are. I was like, why would Satan even want to fight God at this point, bro? Like, dude, you already lost, and you know you're gonna lose, dude. God is not even gonna fight you himself. He's gonna send another angel from your school to come and beat your ass up, bro. Like you're punked, right? In my head, right? So he goes like, no, it's not that, bro. They're trying to deceive God, get back to God by destroying us, and then getting back into heaven. Exactly what you just said, and it really resonates because this is why. Everything that you consume, propaganda, everything that you eat, everything that you see, everything that you hear, all your five senses are being bombarded every single day. You are being manipulated to think, behave. Your habits are controlled by the way you feel, not by logic. It's always magic over logic instead of logic over magic. And then you start consuming things, and you become this dark entity vibrating at a very low frequency level that resonates with only other low frequency people, like drug addicts and stuff. And I don't know if you know this, but I used to consume drugs. I used to fucking do cocaine and racks of fucking meth. And when I would walk down the street, other meth heads would come and hit me up like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? They would talk to me and shit. Now I walk down the street and I'm fucking sober. They don't want to talk to me. They hide from me. And it's because you're resonating at that frequency. Now you keep and then it becomes a chain reaction. It becomes karmatic. Like you I'm not sure if that's the word. Like you do something bad to somebody else, that person goes and does something else to somebody. You provoke issues at home with your wife. You do traumatic events to your kids. Your kids grow up with that mentality. They think it's okay. It gets normalized. It gets propagandized. It's programming at a very age, and then the domino effect continues. And you separate. You live in a divided state, and then you separate yourself more from God and closer to Satan. Holy fuck. Good stuff.
Absolutely. And I think here's the thing. This concept of a satanic control matrix, it's probably one of the most diabolical systems of manipulation ever devised. Because what it does is it uses the full spectrum dominance protocol to gain absolute control. And that approach relies on the introduction of occult sciences, occult technologies, and occult practices in order to infiltrate human affairs until every aspect of humanity is brought under satanic control. This is where things like you were talking about with cloning come in. Like cloning is not just a scientific advancement. There is an occult aspect to it that is being done in conjunction with the military-industrial complex in order to achieve a much larger goal, which, like I said, is infiltrating human affairs until every aspect of our humanity is brought under satanic control. And in order to achieve that, it focuses on implementing control across three key sectors: individual control, social control, and global control. So from individual control, if you want to get boots on the ground and control the individual person, right? But once you start controlling individuals, you got to start putting them into larger factions, which are called social control groups. Mm-hmm. That's what makes up societies. Once you have a whole bunch of societies under control, you need to implement that into a larger unified arrangement of control, which is a single system, a global system of control. And we hear this often alluded to in the news and other places because they call it the New World Order. And that's where things are pushing towards. And this is not a political thing. This is a spiritual thing. And each aspect of that, they all have metrics and they all have characteristics that I think are really important for people to understand. Starting first, with individual control. When it comes to that, the elites have elected to use a compromised educational system that really forces students to undergo cognitive conditioning techniques. Now, why do that? Well, it's because think of it like a basic training program for everybody. The fact that you force people to go into an educational system means that you now have access to all of these minds, especially starting at an early age when most of us are extremely impressionable. Yeah. That's a key point and a key moment to actually get your hands on people's minds to begin to affect the way that they think. And this really affects people long after they leave the halls of academia, because at the basis of this system really lies a foreign military grade psychological conditioning protocol that was codenamed kindergarten.
Whoa, hold that right there. All right, first of all, I gotta say, you guys are very well fucking spoken. I have to fill in the gaps with fucking all this fucking
from
time
one minority to another. Why do you sound so surprised?
You will tell you, okay, I'm gonna tell you, I speak 3 languages, bro, but I can't freaking use 4-syllable words in one sentence like the way you do, bro. Fuck. So, congratulations, kudos to that. You're fucking amazing. Anyway, let's keep going.
That's hilarious.
All right, you got comedic relief is key here, bro. Project Kindergarten. I've never heard of this before. Blow my fucking face off, bro. What's happening?
Yeah. Kindergarten is actually a military program that came out of Prussia, and it forms the basis for our entire education system.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. It is designed to destroy individuality, reduce intelligence, and really re-engineer society.
Let me ask you something. So I think this is I don't know the dates. Guys, I like to say this on the show. Hashtag look it up. Don't be fucking lazy. Takes 5 seconds to go to the fucking it goes 5 seconds to go to the search bar. Stop fucking death scrolling on TikTok.
Look it up. That is borrowed.
Yeah,
that is officially borrowed. I
Take
love
that,
it,
bro. Yeah, man. People are just used to having TikTok brains, going to TikTok University and regurgitating everything that they get, right? Everything that they consume. So it only takes 5 minutes, and based on your emotions, if you don't like it, you scroll. You can't scroll past life. This is not how life works. Life is not going to give you a freaking participation trophy just because you're existing. No, that's not how this works. I need you guys to do the research. I also found out. So doing the research, I found out that I guess it was, correct me if I'm wrong, who was it? Ford? No. Rockefeller. He wanted to get back at the United States of America because they wanted to shut down the petroleum shit that he wanted to do. So instead, he started donating money to academia, like you said, to schools, to the Department of Education, and then implementing his textbooks, implementing what they wanted to teach the kids. They wanted pushers, they wanted machine operators. They didn't want people to ask how the machine is created and what the machine does. They just wanted people to push the buttons, et cetera, and et cetera. Is that part of that conglomerate of military action? Is that does it lead to that?
Oh, absolutely. It's so when you had Rockefeller, like you said, definitely made an impact on the public education system. But what most people don't realize is that not only did he make an impact, for the most part, he was primarily responsible for giving us the compulsory education system that we have today. Mm-hmm. And it's actually really crazy when you look at it, because that system actually has his fingerprints all over it. First off, he was quoted as saying, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers." Right? This is what he comes up with as his motivation. And then through the Rockefeller Foundation, which is a tax-free foundation, he's able to help to influence the National Education Association in order to begin to curtail policy that helps to fit that ideology that he has. And he gave millions of dollars through the foundation in that time frame, which is more than what we've got. I don't want to say more, but the dollar amount that he gave, I want to say it was like 100 and some odd million, 140 million, something like that.
In that day's money is a lot more money now. Mm-hmm.
I think it was in today's money, but still, when it's back then, it was very effective in beginning to gain control over the educational system. But the fact that it's Rockefeller and he's a industrial tycoon, we see the fingerprints of this through the system. I mean, if you look at it, you have the school, which is like a factory. And then you have teachers inside of the school, which are like the workers. And then you have the students, which is like the raw material going into the factory to be molded by the workers.
Holy fuck.
All right. We can see that. But then here's the underlining thing that causes your hairs to stand up a little bit. If that model is true, it means then that you and I and everybody that's gone through the compulsory education system is actually a product of that factory. That's the scary part.
Oh, yeah.
And that goes right back to, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Why? Because, one, Rockefeller believed competition was a sin. If you are a thinker, if you are creative, if you continue to manifest being created as an imager of God, one of his key characteristics is he is creative. He is creative without limitation. Right? Mm-hmm. If you want to control that, again, satanic control matrix, if you want to control that, you want to eliminate creativity, because creativity allows for unique solutions to problems to be put on the scene and manifested. And if you are trying to lock down humanity, you do not want them thinking their way out of problems. You don't want them thinking their way out of avoiding problems. You want them lockstep, looking straight ahead, yes or no, sir, or as you said a moment ago, I don't even care what's going on. Just give me my screens, give me my food, give me my entertainment, let me be, and I'm all right. And he is more than happy to provide that. And we see that happening throughout all of society, but it starts first with the education system, because we get run through the system. We have, like we said, kindergarten at the basis of it, and then we go through 12 additional years of indoctrination. If you look at it, most of us are used to seeing this as K through 12, right? What we don't do is add all of that up. K, just make that a 1, plus 12 more additional years. That's 13 years of indoctrination. Anybody familiar with the occult knows that 13 is a key occult number. So it's right in our educational system in many different ways that our system has been influenced not only by bad actors, but it's been influenced by people that are either in league with the occult and in league with satanic forces, or highly sympathetic and influenced by them. And I think the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, I think it was Samuel Blumenfield who said, when you go into public education now, 75% of students claiming to be Christian when they enter the public school system will exit that same system not believing in God. 75%. How's that happen? Is that accidental? I don't think so. I think it's systematic.
Right.
Right? I mean, he goes on to say, look, our educational system, you would think it was broken, right? 81% of American students 18 years or older are unprepared for college. 25% of students fail to graduate from high school in 4 years. 30% of high school students can't pass the U.S. military entrance exam, which is really just focused on basic reading and math skills. And speaking of that, more than a third of all Americans read at the lowest 2 literacy levels. 70% of the students in the public school system are unprepared to succeed in a high-tech economy. How?
Right.
We're throwing millions of dollars at that. What's the issue? Christopher says this all the time. I don't think it's a bug in the system. I think it's a feature.
Right.
This system was designed that way. And that's not to denigrate educators. Like, we're not coming at people that are in that field and saying you guys messed up. It's not that. Many times those people really care for their students. They're really trying really hard to educate, but they're in a system that exploits and abuses them just like it does the students.
Yeah. Right. And I'm glad that you said system, because a lot of people get hung up on curriculum, and that's a big thing that Rockefeller pushed. And you mentioned that he didn't like America because they tried to, take apart his petroleum monopoly. I've heard that a lot too, but we just released a Rockefeller episode, and when you look at it, the antitrust case was in 1910. But he actually put forth all the money to set up the University of Chicago in the late 1800s. So it's not this cause and effect that he got a bad reputation or got a bug up his butt because he didn't like how the government was handling his business. Like, this was a plan from the beginning. And that's kind of, as we begin to look at this stuff, we're like, wait a minute. These plans and these tactics go far beyond just families and, people, individual people. And like Jason was saying, it's a system. So very early on, I think the early 1800s, they assessed the literacy in America, and it was almost at 100%. And they attributed this to homeschooling, reading the Bible, and having theological discussions at the dinner table.
Everything that you put your hands on, bro, everything has been evolving, dude. If you're not innovating or evolving, you're dying, bro. Phones have getting better. Cars are faster. Motorcycles, all types of technology, except the classroom. The classroom is still that freaking 4x4 box that hasn't been innovated on. It hasn't been artistically formulated to be better. It hasn't been re-architected, if that's even a word. You see what I'm saying, right? It's not. It's meant to continue doing what Jason did. That's fucking crazy.
Right, because it's based off of the Prussian educational model. Prussian ended up losing a war, and they got beat and chased all the way back home, and they were like, we can't ever let this happen again. So they overhauled their entire economy. And the idea was that you would want to create people who would willingly walk into musket fire and get shot for the government without asking any questions. The name of this project for them was Kindergarten, because Prussia is the precursor to Germany. That's the system we adopted. So before we even put curriculum in the system is messed up. And who was it? It was John Taylor Gatto. He was one of the most well-renowned teachers in New York. And he ended up walking away from the whole thing because he realized that outside of the curriculum, the things that were taught by transference of how the system was set up taught the students confusion, class position, indifference, emotional dependency, intellectual dependency, provisional self-esteem, and taught them to accept surveillance. That's the system before you put any curriculum in it. It was designed to do this to us.
And I was thinking over here that it barely started in 2001. Look at that, man. Holy fuck. We got to do a deep dive on this. Kindergarten. Crazy stuff. You know what, man?
But that's only sector one, man. That's just individual control, right? Using the compulsory education system. It gets crazier. There's 2 additional sectors of control in the satanic control matrix. Now, you told us to hit it, so we told you buckle up, right?
Keep it going. I mean, look, we got 20 more minutes here. Let's fucking do it.
All right, 20 more minutes. Let's see what we can squeeze in 20 minutes.
Let's get it.
So when you have individual control, once you get those individuals locked and loaded, you need to put them into social control groups. And the way that first thing to understand is that these 3 sectors don't operate sequentially. It's not like you go from 1 to 2 to 3. The way it works is they operate concurrently. So you are always under the control of all 3 of these or the influence of all 3 of these at the same time, just varying degrees of focus. So think about like while you're in school, there's also the societal control that's going on around you. You're just not aware of it because you're a kid. And while all of that is still happening, there's a global system that's going on that's making global geopolitical decisions that you're also not aware of, but it's still affecting you at that moment. You're just not necessarily aware of it. So when we go to social control, the way that this works is using what we call satanic brainwashing or satanic mind control. And brainwashing is actually only one aspect of mind control. You know, you've got critical faculty bypass, hypnosis, predictive programming, cognitive conditioning, shock treatments, emotional manipulation, just to name a few. That doesn't even include frequency manipulation, which we were talking about earlier, biohacking, color theory, subliminal messaging, acoustic bombardment, and good old-fashioned witchcraft. Like, this is what's going on in society right now. Yeah. And if the idea that we're under witchcraft causes people to get a little, prickly. Look, we got all sorts of spell binding that's going on. You can't even form a sentence in our culture without spelling. There's a reason it's called spelling. It's part of the occult nature of our society. Mm-hmm. And, we've got all of this happening at the same time. You've got seducing spirits that are being paraded around by actors that have admitted to actually conjuring up spirits in order to produce some of their most noteworthy performances. We're talking about Terrence Howard. You got Jim Carrey, Denzel Washington,
Roman gods,
even Heath Ledger.
Roman gods. Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. They're actually have spoken to the fact that, yes, they call up spirits to actually help them. We've got pagan ritualistic ceremonies that are being enacted during live musical performances, like during the Grammys. We've got superstar athletes that are being involved or aided by the occult in order to produce our entertainment. And then we have hyperactive video games. Not all video games are addictive, but some are. And in those cases, they can actually produce addiction levels that are the equivalent of heroin or other addictive substances like Call of Duty, Mortal Kombat, Fortnite, all of that stuff. And to top it all off, we also have technological advancements that are designed to assist humanity in the next significant evolutionary step with the emergence of transhumanism. And that's huge because while all of this is going on, while we've got augmented reality, all of this other stuff, quietly, we're still producing quantum-based artificial intelligence, which is so vastly superior to human intelligence that it makes Skynet look like a pocket watch. Bottom line, we're being hunted and our appetites are the bait. Our news, our entertainment, and various technologies are the net that's actually waiting to be sprung on a herd of sheeple conditioned by cleverly orchestrated propaganda that's designed to be hostile to Jesus and sympathetic to Lucifer's mantra of do as thou wilt, with the hope that such conditioning will actually cause us to reject the Messiah and turn instead to accepting the coming Antichrist or replacement Christ and his new world order. It's an aim. And since we're talking about the New World Order, that's going to take us right into global control, which is the biggest thing that's happening on the stage right now. And again, these don't function in isolation. They run together, which means that as a person is being adversely affected by the education system, they've been put into social control groups that are creating mass psychosis. These control groups then have to be situated into a larger global mechanism. And that's what social controllers call the New World Order. And this thing really isn't new. It finds its roots back in the ancient Canaanite religions. This is how things were being controlled back in the antediluvian or pre-flood era. It was all under Nephilim lords. And if people don't know what that term Nephilim means, it's a really provocative idea. But these are the hybrid beings that were the result of angels coming down and having sexual intercourse with human beings. And they produced what other cultures call giants, right? So some of these mythological creatures.
Yeah.
So if
you
you
went
hear
full
like
loop on the
Hercules,
DNA right there. Could be coding DNA, making sure that the DNA is corrupted, that you disconnected from
that was the whole thing. That when you look at Noah, the whole reason that Noah had to have animals brought to him by God himself was because those animals hadn't been corrupted genetically. And even scripture speaks to that. They say that Noah was pure in his generations. Most people read that and they think, okay, that means he didn't make any mistakes. He was just a good person. That's not the statement. It's a scientific statement, which is really cool because people think the Bible and science are at, odds with one another, and they're not. It's a scientific statement buried in scripture, which says that Noah was not genetically impure. He hadn't been corrupted. That's why he was important. Right. And that's why the animals that were brought on the ark were so important, because they had not been corrupted either. Scary thought then is, if that's all that hadn't been corrupted, think about how much had been corrupted. Right.
So that the earth could be covered in water in every corner. Like, I mean, dude, that's everything had to be corrupted, bro. Humans had to be corrupted. Giraffes, everything, every single, even plants to a certain degree.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. See, like, this was one of the things Christopher mentioned earlier. We were talking about the flood when that coworker came in. One of the things about the flood, why it was so impressive to us, is it actually changed the whole perspective of how we looked at scripture. Like you can't understand why send a flood. Like, why would a God that says he loves everybody destroy everything? And if he's this type of person, why would I want to serve him? I mean, that seems a little dangerous. That dude, I'm not sure how he's going to react. I might mess up and, hey, I'm off the scene. It didn't make sense until we looked at the full story. The only reason you send the flood, it's not to deal with the evil or corruption of the human heart, because that's what Jesus does years later. So you needed Christ to actually address the human heart and the degradation and the evil that was in our heart. So why send the flood? The flood only makes sense through the keyhole of Genesis 6. Genesis 6 is the way you have to see all of scripture for scripture to make sense. And that is really dealing with the creation of the Nephilim. Yeah. It's huge because it's the hybridization of everything. And this is what we see happening today on all of these various agendas. There's a move to constantly hybridize or genetically modify everything until we have synthetic variants. Right. And this is happening across the board.
It's in your face. Yes.
Yep.
But it's the same thing that Jesus talked about when his select few folk asked him, when you coming back? And he took that look aside to the left and the right and was like, hey, let me holler at you for a minute. Yeah. You don't need to know exactly when I'm coming back. But what you do need to know is don't let anybody deceive you. What you talking about, JC? Deceive me. Look, I said what I said. Do not let any man deceive you, as it was in the days of Noah. You like Noah? JC, I'm talking, it's like 2,000 years ago, dude. Stay here with me right now.
Why are you so
I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to figure out what's happening when you come back. Not what happened back then, but he's like, no, what happened back then is going to happen in the latter days. And that's going to be a key sign for you. They're going to start genetically modifying things all over again so that Satan can get his seed back into the earth, because he was so close to achieving it back in Genesis. He got down to 8 souls. 8 souls. They've said that it's quite possible that there are more people on the planet in Genesis than there are now. All right, we've got 7.5 to 8 billion people. This dude got down to 8 folk as far as getting his plan to work. That's a pretty good accomplishment. if you ask me, down to 8 people, and then it doesn't work. God steps in, which is dope. You talk about super frustrating. My dude had like cosmic level blue balls. I don't know how he's handled that. Right? I was just there. I was about to achieve, and God was like, "No, can't get what you want." Right. God's got a cosmic level pull-out game. Like, nope, sorry, Satan, can't achieve what you're going for. You just got to sit there frustrated. Anyhow, the people are stuck with that visual in their head. he didn't achieve what he was going for. And so there was a reset. The flood comes in. It destroys everything. It resets the board, right? It destroys all of these mythological creatures. It destroys the temples. It destroys the knowledge base, which is really important. All of that stuff gets reset, and humanity gets another chance to thrive again. And then we see it come back again. It's like what, three or 4 generations later? You see this with Nimrod. Nimrod's like the key to understanding why does all this stuff keep happening in the post-flood era. And that's because he reinstitutes the same stuff that happened before the flood. And he sets up the occult, and then we see the occult getting worked back into society very slowly across the next 2,000 some odd years. And they do a pretty good job right until Jesus Christ steps on the scene. He comes into the timeline and he's like, all right, enough. We're going to change this again. And this time, this is really going to piss you off because we're going to create a new thing called the church. And you're not familiar with this whole thing. And say it was like, huh? What's the church? He was like, now hold your horses. I'm going to show you what it is. You're going to love it, Lucy. It's a good thing. And so the church was given it was given the spiritual authority and power to upset what Satan was doing, right? And he realized this. So he changes tactics again. And instead of actually being as upfront and doing things by way of force, he in turn decides to go underground because the church was actually beginning to stomp out occultism. It's beginning to crush it. In fact, it's Manly P. Hall who actually makes a statement that the occult had to begin to, and I'm paraphrasing this, had to begin to dress itself in Christian garb and Christian phraseology in order to survive. So it literally put on, if you will, a coat of Christianity. It began to use phrases that Christians would know or biblical-based phrases and ideas that were coded. And the secret to uncoding that was only given to people that were part of the occult, that had sworn themselves to loyalty and to secrecy. And it went underground. It created secret societies. These secret societies come in 3 flavors. You have collegiate, you have geopolitical, and you have esoteric. And we have people that we know that are in different parts of that secret society program. Like you have when it comes to geopolitical, you've got the Round Table Group, the Bilderberg Group, Committee of 300, Club of Rome, the Pilgrim Society. You even have the RIIA, which is the Royal Institute of International Affairs. When it comes to collegiate, you have Skull and Bones, which 2 of our U.S. presidents were part of. You have Scroll and Key, the Boule Society, the National Panhellenic Council, or the Divine Nine, which many black fraternities and sororities are a part of. They're part of this collegiate secret society program. And then you have esoteric. Esoteric secret societies consist of like the Golden Dawn, the OTO, the Temple of Set, the Thule Society, the Priory of Sion, and even the Theosophical Society. These all operate in the background. They make up the deep occult. And that's what's influencing a lot of the affairs of today on the geopolitical stage in order to set the stage for the Antichrist to come in. Right. And part of what they're doing, we talked about, was the hybridization program, which is what Jesus was talking about in the days of Noah. But they're also trying to make sure that the whole system is ready and prepped in order for when the Antichrist is revealed, people will be willing to accept it. And that's exactly what it's exactly what Revelation shows us. Right. There's going to be a new world government. There's going to be a one world religion. There's going to be one world currency. And we see all of this stuff getting set up right now. The World Economic Forum is pushing it. Like they came out and was like, are we ready for one world currency? You're like, whoa.
Word.
Y'all just talk about it straight up. Like, are we ready for a new world order? I'm like, no. I don't have nobody up there voting on my behalf, but I vote no. We're not ready for that. But they're literally talking about this type of stuff and arranging the system to produce this stuff.
there's markers. I'm gonna amplify everything that you said. That was a tall glass of water. There's markers. I think in humanity, I think one of the first ones was gunpowder, and then was the atomic bomb, and now it's going to be AI. And this is going to amplify the message where you said, don't let them deceive you, because it's going to get to a point where you won't know what's real and what's fake. It's already happening, bro. Not only with food and eggs and stuff, and like we said, even music, right? With AI generated songs and shit. But with actors, there's actors now that, like the actors that are suing Hollywood because Hollywood wants to use just their faces. They make them sound. I was doing this deep dive on Call of Duty. You mentioned Call of Duty. I'm a Call of Duty player. But what's her name? The girl, she's a Colombian actress. They put balls around her face, right? And they took measurements of her face and they made her say 3,000 words, 3,000 facial expressions so that the AI would capture different parts of her face. And now she only got paid for that, for doing that. And now there's a giant lawsuit coming up the waterworks because they're using her for more different actions in different campaigns throughout the game, in new games with new skins and new sayings, and they're generating her voice and shit because they made her do all those different sounds. So you don't know what's real or what's fake, bro. And then adding to what you said about Jesus, right? And cultural impact of deceit. Now, people are using, and I'm gonna bring this up, and might hurt some people's feelings. My body, my choice. Do you know what God said to the 12? He pulled out the little bread. He's like, "This is my body." Again, mimicking, mocking, flipping everything upside down. I just found out that freaking, I think it was Peter, or who was it? John Paul. Peter was crucified upside down. So the upside down cross never meant satanic bullshit. If it wasn't for Satanic Panic in the 1970s, we would have been like, what the fuck? If it wasn't for the Catholic Church that brought up all these movies and all these exorcism, and only they were allowed to do the exorcism and shit, right? We wouldn't have thought that the upside down cross was satanic at any given point. Cultural impact, again, propaganda, programming, etc., etc. So you're right. Ending comments, guys, because we're at the last few minutes of the show. Christopher and Jason. Yes.
Oh no, I didn't know if you were asking us to make comments or you wanted to make
comments. No, you. I want you guys to bring it in.
We got some more comments if you was looking for ending comments.
Okay, I've got this one thing that's been sitting on me. Anybody that's just looking at it and going, the New World Order, it's just inevitable, right? As these growing political states continue, there really is a plumb line from Nimrod to America and the idea of the New World Order. So Nimrod sets the template for all of paganism, because as the languages got divided, then you'd get cultures and they have all these different names, but they all retell the same story. So it's not any different with the Greek. So you have, Apollo, and it gets confused with the Roman culture a little bit, where Saturn comes in. But there's this poet named Virgil who lived before Jesus, and he wrote these eclogues, which were like prophetic teachings of the coming new age. And in his fourth eclogue, he talks about the return of Saturn's reign, and he talks about for thy Apollo's glorious age, that he will reign this glorious age. And these are all idioms for Satan if you trace them all the way back to Nimrod. Well, it's interesting because Constantine, who was supposed to be the first Christian emperor, the first thing that he brought up when he addressed Rome is he tried to convince the assembly that Virgil was talking about Jesus, when it's clear he was talking about Saturn and Apollo, Lucifer.
In Constantinople. The first statue that he brought up in Constantinople was fucking Mithra. It was the first fucking statue you brought up as a Christian ruler. The fuck out of here, bro. You know what I mean?
But all the way to today, if you look on the back of the Great Seal of the United States, that Novus Ordo Seclorum it's a direct quote lifted from Virgil's fourth eclogue, talking about how this new world order will be under Satan's reign. It's live today.
And the Bible says it. Revelation says that we live in his world. Satan was so fucking stupid, bro. He even tried selling everything God created back to God. It's fucking dumb. Like he tried to seduce God with his own creation. Like, dude, I already own this, bro. It's insane. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to please check these guys out. Christopher, Jason, let them know where they can find you. Woo!
Well, if you like some of this topic with the Satanic Control Matrix, we go into much greater detail on our show. If you're interested in it, look up ORP Podcast. Check out episode 121, which is where we break this down into I'll call it much more bite-sized pieces, but it's still probably like drinking from a fire hose. But for people that are interested in that, I didn't want to scare him, Christopher. I didn't want to give him the time frame.
My bad.
All right, drinking from a fire hose was enough. You gonna have him do it for like 3.5 hours? No. People can pace themselves, and go through it. But I definitely think that this is something that people really need to get a hold on, because this control matrix it's affecting every aspect of our lives, and it is part of what Jesus came back to deal with. And that was something that was lost on me for a long time. It wasn't just about, let me get you saved per se. Saved from what? It wasn't just about saving humanity from ourselves. There's so many other things that are set up in this system of satanic control that Jesus addresses. And it's so important for us to start understanding what that system of control is, how it functions, and what it's trying to do to us and our children, so that we become smarter and we're able to begin to offset its influences. And then hopefully it will cause people to look at what Jesus actually sacrificed and have greater appreciation for it and join in on that fight, because it's a fight. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, you're already part of the fight. So you might as well start ducking out, getting some ammo stacked in, and start firing back.
I love that. Christopher?
Yeah, just the Bible is authentic, and it's actually the code book against the satanic control matrix. We can rely on it, and it gives us all the tools that we need to push back. So find us, orppodcast.com, orppodcast.shop, Instagram, Facebook at ORP Podcast. We got new content every week.
I love that. I love that. Prince also said, I think the next world war is not going to be fought by boots. It's going to be fought in your brain, and the price is your soul. I think that's what he said. I used Mexican words, so guys, hashtag look it up. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check it out. Check out Operation Red Pill Podcast. These guys are amazing. Amazing. And you guys got a new fan with me right now, man. I really thank you guys for donating time here on our show. And I'm going to push the shit out of this. This episode is going to drop towards the end of October. And I really hope everybody that's listening to the show right now, make sure it only takes 5 seconds to go to the search bar, guys, and search them up and listen to their stuff. If you like long-term stuff, long-term content, these guys will definitely suffice your hunger. Ladies and gentlemen, check us out at paranoidradio.com. Drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. It allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Peace out. Woo! Yo, that was fucking fire.
Paranoid Radio.